I never thought silence could be so loud, until the night I heard it scream. My name is Michael Carter, and I'm 34 years old. I've been sitting on this story for 3 years now, too scared to tell anyone, too ashamed to admit what happened in my own home. But tonight, I need to share it, because what happened to me, it could happen to anyone. And maybe, just maybe, my story will help someone out there who's going through the same nightmare. I'm recording this late at night, alone in my living room. The lights are dim, and even now, after all this time, I still check the corners of every room before I sit down. Let me take you back to where it all began. 3 years ago, my life was simple and beautiful. I lived in a small 2-bedroom house on Maple Street in Portland, Oregon. It wasn't fancy, but it was ours. My wife, Jennifer, worked as a nurse at the local hospital. I was a high school teacher teaching history to 10th graders. We had our 6-year-old son, Tyler. He was our whole world. Dark curly hair, bright green eyes, always asking questions about everything. Our evenings were peaceful. After dinner, I would help Tyler with his homework while Jennifer cleaned up in the kitchen. The house would fill with Tyler's laughter when he got an answer right, and I'd feel this warmth in my chest, thinking how lucky I was. Some nights after Tyler fell asleep, Jennifer and I would sit on the couch with the lights low, just talking about our day. Sometimes we'd watch a movie. Sometimes we'd just sit in comfortable silence. I loved the quiet of our home at night, the way moonlight came through the living room window, the soft hum of the refrigerator, the creaking of the house settling. These sounds felt safe, familiar. I never imagined that silence could become my enemy. My father, Robert, lived with us too. He was 70 years old with gray hair and a thick beard. After my mother passed away 4 years earlier, he couldn't live alone anymore. The grief was too much for him, so we brought him into our home. He had the 2nd bedroom upstairs, right next to Tyler's room. Dad was quiet but strong. He helped with Tyler, fixed things around the house, and filled our home with his calm presence. Tyler loved his grandpa more than anything. Every night before bed, my father would tell Tyler stories about his time in the Navy. Tyler would sit wide-eyed and ask for one more story, and Dad would always say yes. Our family felt complete, safe, protected. But that feeling, it didn't last. It started on a Thursday night in late October. I remember because Halloween decorations were still up in the neighborhood. The air was getting colder. Darkness came earlier each day. I was grading papers late in my home office, which was really just a corner of our bedroom. Jennifer and Tyler were already asleep. Dad had gone to bed around 9. The house was quiet, just me and the soft glow of my desk lamp in the dark. Around midnight, I heard something. A soft scratching sound. It came from somewhere in the walls, light and quick, like fingernails on wood. I stopped writing and listened. The sound continued for maybe 10 seconds, then stopped. I told myself it was just a mouse, or the wind. Old houses make weird sounds, right? I went back to grading. But 20 minutes later, I heard it again. This time it was louder, and it sounded like it was coming from inside the walls of Tyler's room. My stomach twisted. I got up and walked down the dark hallway. Tyler's door was slightly open. I pushed it wider and looked inside. He was fast asleep, clutching his toy dinosaur. The nightlight glowed softly in the corner. Everything looked normal, but the scratching sound came again, definitely from inside his walls. I stood there, in the doorway, my heart beating faster. The sound stopped. I waited. Nothing. Just a mouse, I whispered to myself, but deep down I didn't believe it. The next night, it happened again. Same time. Midnight. This time, Jennifer heard it too. We were both lying in bed when the scratching started. It was louder now, more aggressive, and it wasn't just coming from Tyler's room anymore. It was moving through the walls, traveling from room to room. Jennifer sat up. "Michael, what is that?" "I heard it last night too," I said quietly. I got out of bed and walked into the hallway. Jennifer followed me. We stood in the darkness, listening. The scratching moved above us now in the ceiling. It sounded like something crawling, something big. Jennifer grabbed my arm. Her hand was cold. "We need to call someone," she said. But I could tell from her voice, she didn't think it was an animal either. The scratching became a nightly event, always starting around midnight, always moving through the walls. Sometimes it would stop for a few minutes and we'd think it was over. Then it would start again, even louder. Tyler started waking up scared. He'd come into our room crying, saying he heard monsters in the walls. I'd comfort him, tell him it was nothing, and bring him into our bed, but I could see the fear in his eyes. He knew something was wrong. Dad heard it too. One morning at breakfast, he looked exhausted, dark circles under his eyes. "Did you hear it last night?" he asked quietly. I nodded. "I'm calling someone today." "But who do you call for something like this? An exterminator? A contractor? The police?" I didn't know. I called a pest control company. They came out that same afternoon. A guy named Rick, maybe 50 years old, with a baseball cap and a confident smile. "Don't worry, folks," he said. "I've seen it all. Rats, raccoons, squirrels. We'll find whatever's in there." He spent 2 hours checking the attic, the walls, the basement. He set up cameras. He looked for droppings, damage, entry points. Then he came back downstairs. His confident smile was gone. "I didn't find anything," he said slowly. "What do you mean?" I asked. "I mean, there's no sign of any animal, no droppings, no nests, no damage, nothing." "But we hear it every night," Jennifer said. Her voice was shaking. Rick looked uncomfortable. "Look, sometimes houses just make sounds. Pipes expanding, wood settling, could be the wind." He left without charging us. But that night, the scratching came back, louder than ever. Sleep became impossible. Every night, I'd lie awake waiting for midnight. And when the scratching started, I'd hold my breath and listen. Sometimes it sounded like it was right above our heads. Other times it felt like it was inside the walls of our bedroom. Tyler refused to sleep in his own room. He stayed with us every night, squeezed between me and Jennifer. Dad started sleeping with his door locked. The atmosphere in our home changed. During the day, everything looked normal. Sunlight came through the windows. We made breakfast. Tyler played with his toys, but there was a heaviness in the air, a feeling that something was watching us. And at night, the house felt different, colder, darker, like it wasn't ours anymore. Then things got worse. One night, I woke up around 2 a.m. The scratching had stopped, but I felt uneasy. I looked over at Jennifer. She was asleep. Tyler was curled up between us, breathing softly. I needed water. I got out of bed quietly and walked into the hallway. The house was completely dark. I didn't turn on any lights. I knew the way to the kitchen by heart, but when I reached the top of the stairs, I stopped. There was someone standing at the bottom, a dark figure, just standing there, not moving. My heart stopped. I couldn't breathe. I stared at the figure, trying to understand what I was seeing. "Dad?" I whispered. But Dad was asleep in his room. I checked on him before bed. The figure didn't move, didn't respond. It just stood there in the darkness, facing me. I wanted to yell, but my voice wouldn't come out. I took a step back. My hand found the wall. I pressed against it, trying to stay upright. The figure tilted its head, slowly, like it was studying me. Then it turned and walked away. Into the living room, into the darkness. I ran back to the bedroom. I slammed the door. I dove into bed and pulled the covers over my head, my whole body shaking. Jennifer woke up. "Michael, what's wrong?" I couldn't speak. I just shook my head and tried to breathe. I didn't tell anyone what I saw. I couldn't. They'd think I was crazy. Maybe I was crazy. Maybe I'd imagined it. Maybe it was just a shadow, a trick of the light, my tired mind playing games. But I knew what I saw. Someone had been in our house. The next few nights were pure hell. I couldn't sleep. I'd lie awake, staring at the bedroom door, waiting for it to open. Every sound made me jump. Every shadow looked like a person. Jennifer noticed I was falling apart. "Michael, we need to talk," she said one morning. "You're not yourself." "I'm fine," I lied. "You're not fine. You barely sleep. You barely eat. Tyler's scared because you're scared." She was right. I was a mess. But how could I tell her what I saw? She'd think I was losing my mind. My father pulled me aside one afternoon. We were alone in the garage. He looked at me with concern in his eyes. "Son," he said softly, "I know you're seeing things." My blood went cold. "What?" "I'm seeing them too." I stared at him. "What are you seeing?" He looked down at his hands. Shadows, figures, standing in doorways, watching me while I sleep. His voice cracked. I thought I was going insane, but then I saw your face, and I knew you're us. Them too. My throat tightened. "I don't understand what's happening." "Neither do I," he whispered, "but we're not crazy. This is real." That night, Dad, Jennifer, and I stayed up together in the living room. Tyler was asleep upstairs. We kept all the lights on. We needed to talk. We needed a plan. "This started a month ago," I said. "The scratching, then the shadows. What changed? What's different?" We thought back. Nothing had changed. No renovations. No new furniture. No deaths in the house. "Wait," Dad said suddenly. "The box." "What box?" I asked. "The box I brought down from the attic. About 6 weeks ago. I was looking for old Navy photos." My heart sank. "What was in the box?" "Old things, letters, photos, some belongings from my time overseas." "Where is it now?" Jennifer asked. "In my closet, upstairs." We looked at each other. None of us wanted to say what we were all thinking, but we were thinking it. Something in that box had brought this into our home. We went upstairs together. Dad opened his closet and pulled out an old military footlocker. It was dusty and worn with faded green paint. I opened it carefully. Inside were old letters, black and white photos, medals, and a small wooden box. "What's that?" I pointed to the wooden box. Dad frowned. "I don't know. I've never seen it before." I picked it up. It was about the size of a jewelry box, dark wood with strange carvings on the lid. I tried to open it, but it was locked. "Where did this come from?" I asked. "I have no idea. It must have been mixed in with my stuff. Maybe from someone in my unit." We stared at the box. Something about it felt wrong. The air in the room felt heavier, colder. "We need to get rid of it," Jennifer said. I nodded. "Tomorrow. First thing." But that night was the worst. We went to bed around 11. I held the wooden box. We decided to keep it in our room until morning, where I could watch it. Midnight came. The scratching started, but this time it wasn't in the walls. It was coming from the box. We sat up in bed, staring at the box on the dresser. The scratching was coming from inside it. Something was trying to get out. "Oh my God," Jennifer whispered. I got out of bed and grabbed the box. "I'm throwing this outside, right now." But before I could move, the scratching stopped, and Tyler started screaming. We ran to his room. He was sitting up in bed, pointing at the corner of the room. "Dad, there's a man! There's a man standing there!" I looked. The corner was empty, but Tyler kept screaming, his eyes locked on something I couldn't see. Dad ran into the room. "What's happening?" "He says he sees someone," I said. Dad looked at the corner. His face went white. "Oh my God, I see him too." My heart stopped. "What does he look like?" "He's old, wearing dark clothes, military uniform, just standing there, staring at Tyler." I looked again. I still couldn't see anything, but Tyler and Dad were terrified. They weren't lying. I grabbed Tyler and held him tight. "We're leaving, right now. Everyone get in the car." We packed a bag in 5 minutes and left the house. We drove to a motel on the edge of town and checked in. It was 3 in the morning. Tyler was still crying. Dad was shaking. Jennifer was silent. I sat on the motel bed, staring at nothing. Our home wasn't safe anymore. Something was in there, something that wanted to hurt us. The next morning, I made calls. I reached out to a priest, a spiritual advisor, anyone who might help. Most people thought I was crazy, but one man took me seriously. Father Michael was an older priest from a Catholic church downtown. He'd dealt with cases like ours before. He agreed to come to our house that afternoon. We met him there at 2 p.m. The house looked normal in the daylight, peaceful, but we knew better. Father Michael walked through every room praying quietly. He blessed the doorways and window. As when he got to Dad's room, he stopped. "This is where it's strongest," he said. "Something is attached to this room." I showed him the wooden box. Father Michael's expression darkened. "Where did you get this?" "It was in a box from my father's military belongings," I said. Father Michael studied the carvings on the box. "These symbols, they're old, very old. This box was used to contain something, to trap it." "Trap what?" I asked. "Something that should never have been released." My stomach dropped. "How do we fix this?" "We need to seal the box again, properly, and it needs to leave this house, tonight." Father Michael performed a blessing over the box. He said prayers in Latin, covered it with blessed oil, and wrapped it in white cloth. He told us the box needed to be buried far away from our home, in sacred ground. That night, Dad and I drove 2 hours out of town with Father Michael to a remote church cemetery. We buried the box deep in the ground, far from any graves. Father Michael said more prayers over the site. When we came home, I felt exhausted but relieved. "It's done," I said to Jennifer. We waited. We didn't sleep that night. We just waited for midnight. Midnight came, and for the first time in weeks, there was no scratching, no shadows, no cold air, just silence. Beautiful, peaceful silence. Tyler slept through the night. So did Dad. So did Jennifer. I stayed awake just to be sure, but nothing happened. The days that followed were strange. We moved carefully, afraid to disturb the peace. We whispered in the house like we might wake something up, but slowly, day by day, life started feeling normal again. Tyler went back to sleeping in his own room. Dad stopped locking his door. Jennifer and I started laughing again. The heaviness in the air lifted. Our home felt like ours again. It's been 3 years now. We still live in the same house, and I can honestly say, we're happy. The scratching never came back. The shadows are gone. Our nights are quiet again. But I'm different now. I don't take peace for granted anymore. I don't ignore strange sounds or weird feelings, and I never, ever open old boxes without knowing what's inside. Some things are locked away for a reason. Some doors should never be opened. Some darkness should stay buried. If you're going through something like this, if you hear things that don't make sense or see things that shouldn't be there, don't ignore it. Don't wait until it gets worse. Reach out for help. Talk to someone. There are people who understand. People who believe you. You're not crazy. You're not alone. And remember, even in the darkest nights, even when fear feels like it's swallowing you whole, there's always a way back to the light. You just have to hold on. You just have to fight through one more night, because morning always comes, and with it, hope. Stay safe. Lock your doors. And if something doesn't feel right in your home, trust your instincts. They might just save your life. My name is Michael Carter, and this is my story.